how locals' love for art reinstills his hope for living.
Find out what happened to the yoga instructor accused of cultural appropriation.
It was confusing enough that I found it hilarious.
And finally, how one man is back on two skates after a paralyzing crash.
We have all that and more on this week's edition of the 25th Hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Maha Ansari.
And I'm Jean-Loup Dudard. Welcome to the 25th Hour.
Today, a special look into the life of a man of many colors. Chi Wei Lee is a local artist. From Malaysia to Canada, Lee shares his story of finding hope and peace through paint.
I picked up a paintbrush when I was pretty young. I guess it would be grade school, grade 1, grade 2, when we had art classes, and I loved it instantly. My name is Lee. This is where I live. This is a rooming house. I tend to live with my art, so I tend to have it all on my walls usually. My father was a very, very good painter, but it was not encouraged because he felt that painting was not going to make me a living. So I was never formally trained, or I've never actually taken any art courses or anything. I've always done art. I've always thought it was a very important part of my life, but I never thought of myself as a professional artist or something. I was a student when I first came to Canada. It was in '82. My father envisioned me to come to Canada, get an education, go back, have a family, become a professional. Unfortunately, that wasn't my plan. I was more interested in living on the fringes of society. Right now, I'm working between 55 to 65 hours a week. Even my situation right now, I'm a couple of paychecks away from being homeless again if I'm careless, if I'm not vigilant, if I fall through the cracks again. There's no what you call like a prototypical homeless person. We all have a story. In 2012, my father passed away, and I was not able to go to his funeral because I had also come to a point where my depression had been getting worse and worse, and I was in a pretty dark place most of the time, and I ended up being homeless. That's when I ended up at Salvation Army. They gave me a bed, they gave me food, they gave me some companionship. The first week I was here, I met Chaplain Melissa, and she was running this art program called Arts and Craft at that time. And she asked me if I would attend it, and I said, yes, of course I would, because I've always been interested in art, right? And they gave me an opportunity to do something. So I attended it, and I haven't looked back since.
Before I came back here, we made spicy 2.5.
You get a lot of people who are from the marginal society, I guess you could say. A lot of them are just freshly released from a prison term, or people who are court mandated to do certain community hours or community or rehab. I mean, you have to realize that a lot of the clients that we have, they have their problems, but their problems were caused by other problems. It is an unfortunate situation for people to become homeless because they lose a lot of their dignity, they lose a lot of their independence. But it is through that program that I sort of found myself again, I guess. That refreshed really refreshed me and it gave me a new focus in life. Now that I have moved out of the shelter for about a year now, it gave me an understanding of how I could actually use art to actually help others. I look at myself as a person, but also part of a community. My most precious gifts that I've been given are the people around me and the relationships that I have with them.
For Lee, the transition to life in Canada was not easy, but it was made possible because of a supportive community. Now, those seeking refuge in Ottawa are in need of the same thing. A local group welcomes Syrian refugees to Canada with parcels of kindness, making the move from thousands of miles away a little easier.
You can welcome someone or show someone that you care or that you're happy that they're here through a gesture. And that's what Welcome Box is. It's not just a box filled with essential items. It's an actual gesture. It's our greeting to them so they understand that we are so happy that they're here in Canada.
Yes.
I'm Renee Taylor and I'm the founder of Welcome Box. Welcome Box is a nonprofit organization. The main goal and objective that we have is to find a way to welcome every new Syrian community member that comes into the National Capital Region. One of the biggest things that makes people feel like they belong to a community is if people from the community actually reach out themselves.
Scissors. Okay.
We recently formed a partnership with the Radisson Hotel, and they're actually allowing us to not only distribute our boxes, but also they've given us meeting space as well too through their conference rooms and meeting rooms as well. There are definitely a lot of people that are opposed to the Syrian refugees. But I think one of the reasons why that is simply due to ignorance. How do you say no to welcoming individuals into a safe community when you understand that where they come from, or when you understand more about the plights that these individuals have faced?
يعني طبعا هو حرب فيه واستقرار كمان انه تثبت مكان واحد ما فيه، كل يوم من منطقه لمنطقه، يعني انه تستقر امان ما فيه، استقرار ما فيه، سبل الحياه اضعف المي اكل شرب ما فيه يعني.
Big box. Maybe you can go on the floor? Yeah. Want to go on the floor? Yeah.
It's one thing to plan and prepare for something, but when it's actually happening and you're seeing all of your efforts unveil, it's very moving. A lot of the children were very open and receptive to actually communicating and speaking with us, which was very nice as well.
Yay! That was a good one.
I have an awesome team of hardworking, dedicated individuals. We pack boxes for every single age group, from an infant to a child, to a preteen, to a teen, to an adult, really. Here's a Hot Wheels car. Here is a Kinder Surprise, which we found a lot of the Syrians were very well acquainted with. Apparently this is very big in the Middle East, so that's a nice addition. When we do any box delivery, regardless if it's the first or the second or the third time, I speak for myself and everyone else on the team when I say it's actually a very personal experience every time to meet those individuals, to have that eye contact and that one-on-one connection with them as we deliver their boxes.
لا الحمد لله مرتاحين وأفضل من الحالة اللي كنا فيها الحمد لله.
so cute.
بالنسبة للمقارنة بين هون وسوريا يعني فرق كبير. هون رياحة وناس يعني تهتم فينا، هناك وضع تعبان. أهلا وسهلا ونتمنى لكم التوفيق باستقراركم هنا. هذا.
There's only so many items that you're able to bring with you when you do immigrate here to Canada as a refugee. They only have a certain size suitcase, and we understand that clothing is probably more of an essential item than toys would be. And that's why we prioritize toys for child boxes and why that was an essential item for us to include. I definitely believe that we all have a social responsibility. I think that we're all very fortunate to live here in Canada. We have all the resources and everything that we could possibly need. And with that being said, that means that we have extra to give to other people. Maybe? Oh. And then you have this one. Yeah. I think this is the least that I could do to help another human being.
خبرهم ثانك يو وقول لهم شكرا.
Thank you.
While parcels may greet the hands of new refugees, some Ottawa residents are being handed something a little worrying: steep grocery bills. The soaring price of food is hitting senior citizens like Judith Lewis the hardest. With little savings, Judith now carefully counts her nickels at the checkout counter. Here's how she's scraping by.
$3.99. No. I looked at the prices of the mushrooms, and I know we can get better in the summer.
Pricey produce has been breaking the bank for many Ottawa residents. One local in particular is Judith Lewis.
The thing that frustrates me the most these days is the cost of fruits and vegetables.
The newly retiree, forced to slice her food budget by 2/3, is really feeling the pinch.
It's very frustrating to look at a little pack of six small tomatoes for $5. It's just outrageous.
Every trip to the grocer's calls for a careful counting of quarters.
So I'll go to the store with a set amount of money and try to get what I need.
But for some senior citizens, Lewis says it's a tougher job to put food on the table.
I do have some money, albeit, you know, a retiree's budget. I believe I'm not eligible at this point to go to the food bank. And I don't think I would want to do it right now, since there are people who are worse off than me.
Seeking out donations has become a common resort. Food banks across Canada say the spike in prices makes it harder to stock shelves. And regular community donors resist to spare a dime.
Carrots alone, the price went up 18%.
Samantha Ingram, Ottawa Food Bank Communications Coordinator, says the crash of the dollar has led to a rise in empty red bins.
You know, if you are a person who regularly donates at the grocery store, we have red bins at a lot of grocery stores across the city, your food bill has gone up. So you might not have enough money left over at the end of your own grocery shopping to then donate into the red bin at the grocery store.
Higher grocery bills and shorter shopping lists are all that's in store for folks, says Lewis.
Will this be resolved soon? That's hard to say. If I'm going to be cynical, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that the grocery stores are going to continue to raise their prices, and then once in a while they'll drop it down 25 cents. Big special, big red sign, 25 cents lower price today. But really, from last week, they raised it $1, put it on special for 25 cents less. But when you do the arithmetic, what they've really done is raised it 75 cents. It's maddening.
For 25th Hour, I'm Samba Villani.
Produce prices may be thinning our wallets, but there's certainly no shortage of hope in Ottawa. We visited a few princesses who say that with faith, trust, and a little bit of pixie dust, dreams really can come true. Sound your trumpets, here come the Glass Slipper Party Princesses.
Well, the dream is just a wish that your heart makes. When I was little, I lost my beloved father, and I lived with a stepmother who didn't truly love me. Now I dreamed of being with a prince who would love me, and many children, even though they might be loved already, have the same dream too.
My favorite part of being a princess is encouraging others that their dreams can come true. Sometimes the way we think our dreams are going to happen isn't always the way they do happen, and I know this because that's what happened to me.
Hi.
Oh, well, hello.
So nice to see you again. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good.
How's the beast?
Oh, he's wonderful. And how's Prince Charming?
Oh, he's charming as ever.
You seen Snow White recently?
No, I haven't.
I can't wait to see her and all of our other best friends at our Princess Tea Party. It's gonna be so much fun.
I'm so excited. And even though we came from very different backgrounds and we weren't all princesses before, we've learned that being a true princess means accepting everyone. Even the thugs and the ruffians out there, they all have dreams just like us.
It's true. Rapunzel taught us that.
Sometimes people say that the only thing about being a princess is to look pretty.
But that's not true at all, is it?
No.
There's so much more to being a princess than that.
Now, being pretty also includes your character and how you react to people.
Being beautiful on the inside and on the outside.
We were just talking all about what it means to be a true princess. Do you think you're a princess? Yeah. You are.
Oh my
You look
goodness.
just like one. Well, we have some other very special little princesses coming to meet with us today, too. And who's your favorite princess? Cinderella. I'm your
Oh
favorite.
my goodness.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm so happy I can be here to see you today. Have you seen me before at my castle? You have? You came to visit me? Did you meet my Prince Charming, too? No, you haven't seen him before. Well, my favorite part of being a princess is the fact that all my dreams have come true. I get to live with my Prince Charming in a beautiful castle, and I don't live with my stepmother anymore, who was very mean to me, and now I get to dance all the time and sing with all my birds and mice friends. It's wonderful.
When I ventured into the forest to find my papa,
It was very brave.
I was terrified and I was so excited. And when I found him and I met the beast and I fell in love with him, I knew that that's where I was supposed to be, and I never looked back. I would say the hardest part of being a princess is having others see you as more than just a pretty dress or a pretty face. It makes us really happy when we get to spend time with kids and inspire them because they see us as more than that.
It's true. It's not just about our pretty dresses, like you said. And sometimes people think that, even though they are beautiful, thank you, fairy godmother. But it's about being kind to everyone and showing the world that we're strong and confident and that we had courage and we're kind and chased our dreams. And
that dreams can come true.
And I was all ready for the ball, but do you remember what I was missing? My glass slippers and a beautiful dress to wear.
At the end of the day, we get to spend time together, all of our princess friends, and we're living our dreams. So there's really nothing better than that.
That was so sweet, my teeth hurt.
Yeah, those party princesses really make me feel like a little kid again. But it is important to think about how they influence children.
That's a good point. To dig a bit deeper into this story, 25th Hour's Christy Jones spoke with Fiona Dodsworth, a member of Vaginas Against Violence at Carleton University.
I'm here with Fiona Dodsworth to discuss the topic of princesses in relation to feminism and gender roles. So when it comes to princesses, particularly Disney princess, where would you say they play into that kind of conversation?
I think Disney princesses have a lot to do with feminism sort of in the more modern context. Definitely, maybe not in the 90s, but more where we're looking at it now. I should probably preface this by saying that I really love Disney, but it's important to also be critical of the things that you enjoy. Disney princesses are like just the classic embodiment of like early femininity, you know. They're beautiful, they're kind, they're intelligent, and they're domestic and patient. They're all those kinds of things. And I think that those are important qualities for modern girls, but we should also take away that it's okay to be strong, but also to be soft. There aren't a lot of media outlets that are sort of oriented towards little girls, specifically towards little girls, the way that Disney is. But at the same time, like, we all grew up watching Disney movies, and yes, maybe we saw them as role models then, but, you know, growing up, we sort of learned to be critical of the things that we love, and we have different role models now, you know. It's not as though they were our role models once, so they're still going to be our role models forever, and we're going to have these terrible morals instilled into us. You know, having that experience of admiring Disney princesses didn't limit us to being a certain person.
Disney is known for being quite whitewashed and very heteronormative. What do you think about that situation?
I know there are a couple princesses of color, POC, princesses of color. I would honestly say that maybe Lilo from Lilo and Stitch would be one of the best representations of race, but Pocahontas, definitely not a good one, just because of the bastardization of the history of Pocahontas. It's not a love story, certainly not. But Disney makes it out to be. And unfortunately, that is just a lot to do with colonialism and the romanticization of colonialism. I am super excited. Hopefully they come out with like more POC princesses in the future, and maybe even like a Disney prince who falls in love with another prince. Who knows? I've heard the rumors, so.
The significance of diversity extends beyond the world of make-believe. Jennifer Scharf learned that last year. The yoga instructor was at the center of controversy after her yoga class was canceled over cultural issues. We caught up with the former University of Ottawa yoga instructor to reflect on how she dealt with the media frenzy.
There was really only one time that I would receive divine knowledge, if you want to call it that, and I was 13. And I didn't really know what it meant, but I just had that, and then from there, I began training my mind. So I guess 13 was technically when I would have started. And then when I started doing what people in this culture call yoga, that would be more 16, 17 when I started doing it at Good Life. And then just from there, sort of exploded and never looked back. I think the community aspect is my favorite. That everybody is on the same path. And you take it out of a space of having to be individual egos competing with each other. There's less focus between people on each other and more focus within them. Spirits just divine me what's called a mantra. You're probably familiar with some of them if you've ever done any kind of yoga class, like Om is what's called the universal mantra. So that would have been what I was given when I was 13, which then I used to train my mind in what I later learned as yoga and Ayurveda. If you attend a Western yoga class, a commercial one, you'll usually have a specific set of postures, possibly meditation, possibly the odd chant thrown in. You can think of yoga as like a giant ocean, and we have all these different teachers that are kind of hopping in at different points. That's why individual yoga classes are all so different. So for me to speak on what those classes were like back then, it would be so, I don't know how you'd even have a basis to talk about what that's like compared to the yoga that I grew up learning. You have to have a really strong body to do yoga, so it does serve that purpose. It makes you more aware, maybe than an exercise class, more aware of the connection between breathing and body awareness. I think it's very individual. A yoga practice is very individual, and for me, what it means to be yogi might not be the same as what it means for somebody else to be yogi. But I feel very strongly I can associate with that term. However, other people calling themselves that, maybe to feel cool or for the wrong reasons, that's when it becomes a problem. the solution was easy. Just, you don't have to call it yoga. You can call it mindful stretching, because it doesn't offend me as like, I'm not using yoga, as unfortunately a lot of people are, to prop up an image of being accomplished in the fitness industry. Because I think if this had happened to anybody else, it wouldn't be the same degree of interest, because at some point the person just would stop answering questions, right? At some point, just people don't have anything more to say, but except me, which people tend to make the mistake of they misunderestimate me, I guess. Just kidding, that was a George Bush joke. They didn't actually say cultural appropriation, they said cultural sensitivities. The cultural appropriation stuff, that was already a media narrative that then got imposed onto that story, which had honestly nothing to do with me.
You find it very comical. Why is that?
Because I'm the worst person you could make an example of for yoga cultural appropriation. It is kind of funny that people are that jaded that they assume on the get-go that anybody doing this is a fraud. I was sad because now the students don't get to come to the class, and it stopped for no reason. There's no good reason to stop it, which is what was such a problem. Seeing this culture and how its accomplishments can be traced back to the knowledge that's not always attributed to ancient India, then have it come full circle to the point of yogic cultural appropriation and then to also have it exemplified by me, to have all those things happening together was confusing enough that I found it hilarious. I'm glad it happened.
Are you?
Me losing one class at Ottawa U is honestly, it's sad, but it wouldn't be very yogic, I think, for me to be resentful. It feels like I have a community now of people who maybe don't know a lot about yoga, but they're interested. So if my ironic class cancellation is a good enough way to get that done, it's totally worth it.
Whether you call it mindful stretching or hatha flow, yoga is an ancient practice that's always evolving, not unlike archery, a sport that reaches back into human history. Now in Ottawa, it's become an adrenaline-pumping sport with a twist. It's time to meet archery tag.
2, 1.
Move up, move up, move up, move up, move up. Let's go. We got one, we got one. Oh, nice shot, nice shot, nice shot.
It's a paintball, dodgeball combination almost, except you're using bows and arrows. And on the ends of the arrows are really big foam pads. Essentially, you're trying to shoot other players out and be the team with all your players left at the end of the game. It's way more intense than it lets on. Like when you're watching from the sideline, you're gonna be like, oh, I guess, it's going. But when you're in there and you have your mask on and your peripherals are kind of closed and there's someone aiming at you and wanting to clearly get you out, that feeling is pretty good. Like there's this neat thing of survival coming into play. I think it's kind of something that maybe has been in our blood for a long time too, with ancient warfare or even further back than that, like looking at Egyptians or Mongols, is such a way to combat their foes. So it might just be something that's natural to us, just because we've been doing it for so long. And the satisfaction of I don't know, even in this target range, there's these tiny little yellow balls you got to hit, and just hitting one is like, yes, I did it, And add on hitting a person, that's even better, it's tough to beat. So yeah. Anyhow, when it comes down to the last two, it's always super epic because everyone's standing on the sideline watching and cheering. And so when you kind of have maybe a bit of a David and Goliath thing going on, if you have a kid versus a grown-up and the kid wins, everyone erupts. So that's always really cool. So those are good moments. Anyone who gets anyone out with a fireball, that's we add dodgeball into the arrow or into the archery as well. So anyone getting anyone out with a fireball is also pretty cool. The league is for those who are a bit more diehard, who kind of played probably once or twice and went, oh man, I really want to do that again and again. We don't go through all the game varieties that we have when we normally play. There's just kind of the most competitive versions. So yeah, but it's still got this nice lighthearted feel to it. which is good because it is quite a physical game, considering you're shooting people the whole entire time. So everyone walks out sweaty and tired, and so we've had that. But it could also be the other way too. You know, you can come in. I've seen people playing like jeans and a sweater and be like, take it a bit easier. So it's kind of how you make it. So, yeah.
For us, there's not too much protective equipment in terms of safety, mostly just the helmet. And then we also have arm guards as well. So arm guards are really good for when the string would hit your forearm when you're pulling back a bow. So this is an arm guard right here, and you'd put this along your off arm. So then when you shoot, the string would hit the arm guard instead of your forearm. So in a game like this, you're sort of measured on how many times you get killed, how many kills you get, how many times you can bring your teammates back in the game. So you can bring your teammate back in the game by catching an arrow or shooting out a target. So some games, you're shooting 3 people out, you catch 3 targets, you don't get killed once. There's some normal games where you're just on fire, you know, you see everything around the court. It's almost Matrix style, where you know everything that's going on and you can just like pinpoint, you know, opponents to shoot out and also not be shot at yourself. So.
But yeah, I think I only see the sport progressing, and I think that's great for it all. If there's more competition, it will just make the business that much better. We'll just have to be that much better. So, yeah. I think for me, just seeing how much people love coming in, and when they leave the arena, like everyone's ear to ear grinning, which is so cool. Like you can really get behind that. And if you're going to work somewhere and work for something, like that's the biggest draw. So I think that's been the coolest part.
What do archers and alpaca farmers have in common? Passion, and that's no joke. Next, 2 alpaca farmers in Lanark County share their love for each other and, of course, their animals.
Okay, Zip, come on. It's time to eat. Let's go, buddy. All right, come on. Let's go have breakfast. My name is Keith Adam.
And I'm Elizabeth Adam.
And this is Serendipity Farm Alpacas and Llamas. It's something we started about, really only 3 years ago. We've been here about 5 years, and at first we thought we might do something with horses or some other animals, dogs that we knew, and then we thought let's do something we don't know anything about and learn all over again. And as we started to pick the animals and also set up things like fencing and structures and so on, we realized that because our farm is in Lanark Highlands and rocky and very difficult and different, that Serendipity was a good name because we kind of had to go around rocks and even our house is built around rock structures, and so we thought you have to kind of go with the flow and be surprised by things.
We had sort of skirted around with the idea of alpacas and llamas a number of years ago. We thought that they were prohibitively expensive, whereas it ended up that they weren't quite so bad.
Okay, Zahara? It's all good? Oh, we met in the late 70s, mid-70s.
No, mid-70s.
Gosh, I guess we got married in 1978. We decided to retire, and this would have been 2010-11, and move out to the country. The property that we have here is 100 and some acres that had nothing on it. There was no house. We have a llama in every field, guarding that field, and they look after the alpacas in that field, and so far we've had no trouble with anything. So and we've just fallen in love with the llamas, of course, too, because they're so smart and interesting and just neat animals. So
our baby llama, who is not so much a baby anymore, but he was born just about 10 days before they moved here to live, and we named him Serendipity. So that was one of the others.
He was the first baby actually on our farm, the
yes.
first cria.
Yes.
Yeah, he looked just like the baby alpacas at first, but he just grew really, really fast. He's now the alpha king out there, but he still loves people and, as you know, loves his treats. So.
Good fellow. That should hold
boy, Serendipity.
Right?
Probably not. If you go in the barns, especially in the afternoons when they're having little naps and so on, it is the most peaceful place you could imagine. They all hum, they're all down cushed, and you walk in there and the energy level is just so calm. You just can't imagine anything nicer than that. So, I mean, there are times when there's fighting and kicking and spitting, but overall, they're just the neatest animals. They're so inquisitive. They're, really, really cute to watch, especially when they're young, but, and they're just so different.
Last year I lost my mom, and it was a very difficult time. And I would go down to the barns and cry a bit, and they would all come around me. It was a really wonderful, wonderful sharing moment.
Good boy, Ralph.
But just can't imagine not having animals. It would be kind of empty without them.
What if you were told you might never walk again? That's what happened to Doug Smith. Doug's professional hockey career was over in an instant. A horrifying injury tested him in ways he never imagined and set him on a new life's course.
If you told Doug Smith he'd tie up his skates again, he'd never believe you. Almost 25 years ago, Doug couldn't move his arms or legs. Doug came from humble beginnings. Raised by a young single mom, his biggest fan.
When I was with the Ottawa 67s, she would drive to Windsor for one game. So she would drive 500 miles, 700 kilometers, to watch a 2.5-hour hockey game just to be in the stands to watch me play when I was like 16 and 17 years old.
At 18, he was picked second overall in the 1981 NHL draft. Fresh out of high school, Doug was LA bound. It wasn't the fairy tale he imagined.
Every 4 or 5 games, there was a bench clearing brawl, so you had one choice. If you wanted to play in the NHL, you fought. Everybody fought.
At 23, he was traded to the Buffalo Sabres. That's where Doug was at his best.
I scored 13 seconds into my first game with the Buffalo Sabres. Within 3 weeks of me arriving in Buffalo, I was a household name.
6 years later, Doug lay paralyzed in a hospital bed. He shattered his neck doing what he loved.
When I hit the boards, I knew I'd broken my back somewhere. I was conscious, and it was like nothing else I'd ever felt.
His career was over.
I could lift my left arm. I had no tricep, so I would lift it up like this, and the fork would fall and hit me in the face over and over and over again. I remember being in the hospital just doing that over and over because I couldn't control my limbs, so I had no function of my 2 legs, this arm completely dead, no bladder, no bowels, upper diaphragm.
But for Doug, what was going on in his head tested him the most.
Basically, going from being an elite professional athlete to being a quadriplegic is like your whole identity being flushed down the toilet. Instantly, it just gets flushed down the toilet. Because all you've ever been is the physical identity, and all of a sudden you have no physical capability whatsoever.
His wife, Patty, was by his side through it all.
I had a discussion with Patty when I was suicidal, and we had 2 young girls, right, when I was injured, and she basically said no. And so, yeah, she pushed me, and she continues to push me. I didn't skate for 13 years. I tried once in 1998, about 6 years in. Patty and I went to the canal. It was very emotional, very emotional. And I didn't feel comfortable.
Knee braces serve as a physical reminder of how far he's come.
First time I went on the ice with guys who were at a pro level, it almost made me feel sick. I was scared I was going to get hurt because the speed is so great out there and my brain hadn't adjusted. So I attacked that fear and I kept going back and started playing in a couple of games. And now he wouldn't be able to tell that I didn't play.
The former NHL star now helps others fight their own battles.
I share a message that I stumbled across when I stumbled into the boards. It's not about trying to be the best in the world. I already did that. I never found happiness in being that. It's really about being the best for the world. And there's a subtle difference between those two things, but a very important difference.
We got that. We got that pass.
I would sacrifice anything to win a hockey game, anybody to win a hockey game. Not anymore. When I skate today, I just let the guys go.
Doggy, we got it. We got it, Doggy.
Well, that's all for today, folks. I'm Maha Ansari.
And I'm Jean-Loup Doudard. Thank you for watching the 25th Hour.